Hello, hello. Okay, so recap of yesterday night's trade. Took a dub, took a dub. Okay, so what I was seeing, right? So what I was seeing was, as you guys can see, this is the trade from last night. Entry was based off this candle right here. For the main fact that that was what I consider an engulfing. Yeah, but that was that entry there. And as you can see, we obviously pushed down. Then we ended up going back all the way. Retracing a tad bit. We were in negative for a little bit. As you can see, this is my entry. So us being within the zone here, we were a bit negative, right? As you can see, the trade played out a lot more. I caught like a little bit of it, but I'll explain why I didn't hold. Although, so this is the trade, right? Let's start off with the H4. H4 is good. Yeah, H4 is good. Based off this H4, right? We ended up breaking this lower high here, kind of showing me that at this point in time, it wasn't like a true lower high point for the fact that if we go on the daily, it's not seen. It's not seen, right? So it's still, but it's still a lower high point based off this H4. And again, daily was also more bullish within this kind of zone here. Within this kind of like little range here. Um, so then based off that, and then us coming here, we have this engulfing here. I mean, it's this engulfing, this bullish engulfing, which was that lower high point break here, right? So I was a bit more bullish going into this whole setup here. Is that TP2? I was a lot more bullish, right? So then I was kind of anticipating entering here as this was kind of playing out. I remember being around this area here, and I was thinking whether or not we should kind of wait for this position here to come down here and then push up, right? Take that buy opportunity. Overall, I missed it. I don't think all on the charts while this happened, but as you guys can see, it didn't even really push up, creating a lot of exhaustion based off these top candles here. Basically, from when it pushed down here and it started to push up, exhaustion, and then exhaustion here. It wasn't like a strong bullish push, and also with the MA being under it, supporting it. So all that kind of telling me that the buys weren't really that ready in a sense. And then I didn't catch my sell move until this candle here, so it kind of had already pushed down a tad bit, and then I kind of got in based off the continuation, right? I was still a bit cautious based off this area, but I understood that we kind of already tested this area to begin with, but it was still an area to be cautious, right? As you can see, there was still exhaustion. Like I said, there was still some struggle with this area here pushing down, but I knew that we kind of already tested this area, so I knew that we could get a deeper retracement. Kind of hitting my zone. It would have been like my TP3. The reason I did not hold for this zone here is because, like I said, lately I have been kind of over holding trades, I guess you can say, over holding trades that I shouldn't be, and then it retraces, and then I end up losing profit, or it retraces, and then I break even, or whatever the case may be. So here, as you guys can see, if I break this down based off the M30, that was that TP2 here. That TP2 is also just based off, like, again, this zone here. Like I said, that's the MA as well. Like, if we can still see struggle, although we already kind of struggled here. It was still a possibility, but like I said, we already had done it. So I don't know. It was a bit more of my confidence in a sense, like understanding that the last couple week or two, I haven't been as consistent as I wanted to when it comes to kind of holding trades. I tend to kind of hold them for a bit more, or like for example, I'll see an area like this and I'll aim for that area, and then I'll get it on the move and I'll be pretty good. This is an H4 move, so this was quite a bit of a move. Um, holding this, you know what I mean, about 53, 54 pips. It's a medium move, I guess you can say. And then it retraces back on me, right? And I actually got scared because of this wick here. So once it kind of wicked like this, I was kind of like, no, you know what? I'm already up a good amount. And then next thing you know, it ends up touching my zone, right? So with that being said, right, so this is kind of that area I was analyzing here. As you can see, I kind of had already missed the majority of this move, and I was kind of already getting in based off just continuation, right? But what made me kind of get into this was first MA, right? We were underneath the MA, so based off the M30 time frame, we had already broken the MA. That was for one. And then we have the support here. Let me actually. We have the support. We have this resistance here. That resistance level right there that we're still maintaining. So even just to begin with, even if this area here based off the H4 here, this exhaustion, if we were gonna kind of make a higher low point, at least a break of resistance would have made sense, you know. And yeah, overall, I would have wanted this, even if this resistance broke, you know what I mean, it would have been a good like buy opportunity, but also paying attention to this main lower high point here that has to break. So we basically made this lower high, then it's like a lower low. It's a bit blocky on this time frame, but based off like the M15, it would make a lot more sense. But I was using this time frame as mainly like my candlestick analysis because it was so much more blocky. So lower high, lower low, and like a lower high. Right? So again, we're not breaking this lower high. As you can see, we're coming up to these areas here. Yeah, and then if we break this down to M15, like I said, it'll make a lot more sense. It's this area here, lower high, lower low, lower high. As you can see, we're not breaking that area whatsoever. Yeah, still maintaining this area. Maintain that area. This is what I mean. It's gonna kind of be tricky because here this lower high point looks like it was broken based off the M15, but based off the M30, obviously we're still testing this area here. M15 is that same area, looks broken, right? But then if we break that down to like the M5, it's not, you know, it's maintaining that area. So based off M30, like I said, we're still maintaining, like I said, we're just maintaining levels of lower high points, right? Lower high point, and then maintain this same thing in that same lower high point. I broke this down based off the M5, understanding that we have this like lower high point, but actually 15 would have made sense kind of coming on here, understanding that why we kind of got this little higher low, because basically based off this time frame, we still kind of saw this break, which is why it's still kind of held up in a sense. Yeah, interesting. But overall, still maintaining this level here, right? So, like I said, it didn't break the main lower high points that needed to be broken for this shift to really happen, which is based off like M5. Yeah, based off M5, it would have been this lower high point here, right? Based off M30 would have been this main lower high point here, this lower high point here. So then M5, it would have been like at least this here to get some type of transition based off M5 here, and then flow above that, right? But we weren't getting that, maintaining that same level of resistance. And then, oh yeah, that's one entry based off M1, because again, I need to see a lot more details based off that area there. And then we took it here. So basically took it basically here. It was this push here. So a decent push, right? And like I said, it was just mainly based off the M5, understanding that this is still maintaining this level here. So we broke this, we got a lower low here. It's a lower high, lower low. This was just like 100% retrace. So because I was at 100% retrace, I knew that, again, we were pretty much at that max point for this level to maintain. So once I kind of saw that momentum kick in, I kind of had entered based off of that. Yeah, but as you can see, we did not break that main level. Maintained it here, this M5 broken support. Maintained it at this point in time, creating a higher low point. but then overall still maintaining that lower high point type of structure. And I was willing to maintain this area too because of the entry we got. Like I said, even if this were to retrace all the way up here, it wouldn't have been that negative in a sense. This is only like that was that entry there, like a 5 pip. You know what I mean? If it would have really like started to go crazy with the exhaustion, maybe like 6 pips. You know what I mean? 7 max, which again is something I was willing to hold out. That's why I had put my take profit right above. I mean my stop loss right above this area here, this big area. As you can see, yeah, made a higher low point, pulled back. I was debating whether or not to put entries here, but like I said before, like my consistency has not been there when it comes to just kind of maintaining trades and holding trades. But it was an idea, right? I remember just kind of mentally adding an entry here, but like I said, I didn't want to ruin this or just kind of, I don't know. I haven't been that consistent to kind of give me that confidence that I needed, so I didn't even bother, right? But obviously made a lower high point here. And yeah, lower high point engulfing here would have been nice. Stops, same area. As you can see, it pulled back, but still maintaining that same level. Even this break here, little lower high point, that was like a 23.6. So I wasn't really stressing that break of resistance. Yeah, I wasn't really stressing that break of resistance at all. And then, like I said, we ended up pushing down. This was like pre-London, I want to say. Yeah, it's like 6:30. And then this was like London open here when it starts actually kicking that volume. Basically, I exited right around here. It was here. We pushed all the way down here, and then it was this kind of push up here was kind of what got me. Once again, it's just like, again, I haven't been consistent with holding trades. Yeah, so this kind of got me, and I was like, I'm just gonna hold out. I'm just gonna, like I said, close out my trade, and that's it. But as you can see, it ended up tanking all the way technically to my TP3, but like I said, it's just, I'm not really worried about the money at this point. I'm just trying to be as consistent as possible. I understand this trade, understand the potential that I had, and like I said, this is something that can just, reason why I'm going over it, to understand this trade, understand the possibilities, and just kind of for my next trade, you know. And again, it's I feel like it's very, very key at this point in time for me, just to kind of take these wins here, and then closing them out, and then letting it be what it does, and then afterwards just analyze it and just kind of understand that. But I feel like just at this point in time, I just need to catch these consistent wins, and not so much of the big move, or just, you know what I mean, in that sense. So yeah, that was pretty much it. It was just pretty much just M5, same thing, just making a lower high point, as you guys can see here. This was that lower high point. Overall lower high point, right? We made that lower low, so it kind of was in this bearish push, and then we maintained this lower high point, forming another lower high point, making a lower low here, still maintaining another lower high point here. Overall, not breaking that resistance. That was the main thing too. It's just we just weren't breaking resistance. You know what I mean? No major level of resistance. Even if it broke this area here, it would have been a tad bit more iffy, because it could have, again, just had that bullish momentum, and then if it did, could have potentially broke out. You know what I mean? And if it didn't, then I would have needed to see some type of break here, and then I would have needed to be a lot more patient, if it did break that resistance here, right? And yeah, but like I said, overall, just ended up maintaining that, pushing down. Okay. Like I said, just even when it was at this point here, I understood that, like I said, here when it was kind of pulling back, I was like, okay, as long as it doesn't break this level, I'm straight. Same thing, right, when it kind of made that lower high, lower low, as long as it doesn't break this level here, I'm straight, right? Same thing. And then same thing here, lower high, low, it's got to break that main level, right? Same thing, right? Lower high point, maintaining. We never really break out of this area. Lower high, even this point here, we still maintain this little level here. As you can see, it's gonna kind of be like a little. This would be the main one, but this at this point, this 23.6 here was just being maintained, and then we kind of get a little bit choppy here. Overall, I end up making like a little high point here. Yeah, and then we ended up breaking that level based off here, creating a higher low point, and then pushing it up. So that would have been a reason to kind of get out at that point, because again, all around here we just weren't breaking these just 23 points, like even just these 23.66 here, we just weren't breaking. This was that first kind of like how do I put it? Like that first structure point to a certain extent here. Yeah, so that was that trade there. Based off, like I said, same thing. Based off M30 was the same thing. Maintaining these lower high points. Like I said, this was more candlestick analysis. Understanding that this is that lower high point. As we came down here, this candle, we technically didn't break a support, but as it was kind of pushing up, we saw that it was again just making another lower high point based off this resistance here. And yeah, like I said, from here we just kind of got that engulfing here, and then boom. Seeing everything play out, obviously in hindsight, is a lot easier, but yeah, because again, this time graph, I'll wait for these. Like this is a clean setup, right? It breaking it and kind of engulfing this area here, and then waiting for that lower high point. But again, there's times where I won't even do that, and I mean, it would just tank. And again, that's fear of missing out too. And then there's times where again it's like, okay, I'm gonna be patient. Again, it doesn't happen, or I'm gonna be not patient, and then it'll retrace where it should have been patient. Again, it's just a big thing, but it's just part of trading, right? It's just something that just gotta be more selective, right? Be more selective. This is a trade that obviously worked out. Big thing I want to take from here is just kind of understanding our zones, I guess you can say, because here, so we had already tested the zone here. So coming to this next zone here, it would have been higher probability, right? Because again, we already tested this zone. I feel like if we were at this zone here and then we were just aiming straight for here, it would have been not as realistic. But again, we had already tested this area multiple times. Came down here 1, 2. I mean, even here, like came back, pushed above 1, 2, 3. Even kind of here a little bit, had that exhaustion. But again, we just weren't supporting that level like we should have been. So it's kind of aiming for this level here would have been that perfect take profit. And then again, we're still bullish, so again, I would have essentially closed out once it kind of did this, and then look for that buy opportunity, which would have worked out, because again, at the end of the day, we were still a lot more bullish. Yeah. There's H4. No, still bullish. And this level here too was a 23.6. So point A to point B. Actually, right here, 23.6, as you can see. Retrace all the way to my golden zone. And then these, even just TP1, right, would have been, immediately just aim for TP1 and still essentially maintain this level of resistance here. Right, kind of like Crazy Wick or something like that. And then if we do end up breaking this level, then I would be aiming for TP2. You know what I mean? Which again is still a big probability, because again, we're still maintaining this kind of little higher low point, higher high. Like we're kind of within this small little structure. It isn't really the overall structure, but it's still the structure here overall. So this would have been like based off, again, this higher low and this higher high here. It's like 100% retrace that we're kind of at. Again, still maintaining that bullish structure, but even if it broke that level there, overall structure still, again, that would have been 38.2% based off this daily kind of push in a sense. Yeah, now aiming for that up here. And again, that also makes sense because, again, based off this weekly now, we're also still mainly bullish. Higher low, higher high, higher low, maintaining this. And all that first TP would just be aiming back at that main level of resistance that needs to be broken. So again, that buy opportunity was just, it was there, bro. It was there. Again, I did not see it. I was asleep. I kind of had closed out around like 2 in the morning, I think it was, or like 1 something in the morning. From 1 to 2 in the morning, I closed out this trade here. So this was another 4 hours, and this another 4 hours. So it would have been like an all morning type of thing, but kind of things that I need to, just focus on. But again, at the end of the day, we took a winning trade. My analysis was there. I really just want to again focus on just my entries, right? Why I took these trades, why everything was still valid. That's the main thing I want to focus on. Just mainly structure, right? Lower high, lower lower, still maintaining that resistance level, which was key beyond key. Again, even if it kind of retraced all the way over here, like here, kind of breaking this little lower high point here, as long as it didn't break this here, we still would have been valid for that sell. But understanding that if this were to happen, we would have needed to see a lot more. I guess you can say a lot more like bearish moves in a sense. To really feel confident taking the sell, like meaning we would have needed to close under this higher low point for us to really get back. Cause at the end of the day, we're still maintaining that bullish structure, but like this here, based off like M5, M1, would have been holding up. So if we don't close underneath here, technically that's still a valid level, a valid level for the bullish move based off the lower time frame. So that's why we need to close underneath here, and then give us that essentially push that we needed to then flow along with this M30 and with the higher time frame. You know, I mean, taking any other breakout supports here, I feel like it would have been too impulsive, and that's what I usually try to do. I always try to get the best entry possible, which doesn't always turn out because I end up losing the most when I try doing that. Mainly because we don't have that confluence and correlations that we really need with the time frames. Yeah, so again, win trade. Things I want to work on is obviously my TP. TP1 hit, TP1 was here, TP2 is here, and then my TP3 would have been there. Yeah, so again, things I want to work on. Overall, still a good trade. Yeah, pretty much until the next week, right? Analyzing AJ, analyzing these GU. Also gold, I don't trade gold as of now, but it's still a pair that I'd like to analyze and just kind of overall just see where my analysis is based off that time frame.